Going to Stephen A. Smith and Chris Kumo and getting what their perspective is on this whole situation. Spend no more than 10 minutes on this. We got to move on.
You know, the Biden situation disgusted me in terms of the parting only from this standpoint, Chris. Nobody on the planet, you want to be a cynic and you want to act like you would be offended by something like that if you're one of those people out there, fine. But no one within reason would have a problem with him saying, it's my son. I love him. There's no way I'm sending him to jail. And I have the power to avoid it. Nobody would blame him for that. But that's not where he went. So I didn't have a problem to answer your question directly with the decision that he made to pardon his son. Boo Boo the Fool knew he was going to do that. I don't care who he stood in front of or sat in front of and said that he wasn't going to pardon his son and he was just going to go by the letter of the law. Please, everybody and their grandmother knew he was going to pardon his son. But to come
Facts.
out and to start talking about how it's been a witch hunt and the Department of Justice and others were after him or whoever it was, and the GOP rather was after him. Well, wait a minute. What have y'all been doing with Donald Trump all of these years? Now, you can make an argument about the legitimacy of the cases against Donald Trump compared to what wasn't legitimate, et cetera. That's not the point. The point is it was clearly politicized. You had folks on the left who were hell-bent on going after Donald Trump because they were determined to make sure that he couldn't run for re-election or that these elements would get in the way of him possibly winning re-election. And now we know why more than ever, because they weren't confident they would ever be able to beat him. He'd been a Republican nominee since 2016. He beat Hillary Clinton with the Electoral College vote. He wouldn't concede defeat in 2020, but he did receive over 74 million votes at that particular moment in time. And then you fast forward 4 years later, despite the 34 felony convictions, the 2 impeachments, the bevy of crimes that he had been accused of, the Republican voters out there, the conservative voters out there, and a lot of independents from various communities said, he's the guy we want, and I've said it on many, many occasions. It wasn't about him. Just like it wasn't about Biden in 2020, it was more against Trump. In this particular instance, it was an indictment against the Biden administration, what had been going on for the last 4 years. Some of the things going on with the border, obviously inflation, of course, crime in the streets, of course, woke and cancel culture and all of that, it all played a role. And so for him to come out and to talk about that this was a witch hunt when clearly it could be argued that's exactly what you were doing to Donald Trump, or you assisted in doing, seems beyond hypocritical. And that was what disgusted me. It wasn't his decision. It wasn't him pardoning his son. It was the weak, pathetic explanation that he gave, which has most critics just shaking their heads and raising their eyebrows and saying, what nerve you have.
Now, if Stephen A. Smart is this smart, Stephen A. Smart, if Stephen A. Smith is this smart and being able to articulate himself, because he's getting better. Let me give Stephen A. Smith a little bit of credit. I know he's trying to pivot into being more culturally relevant because he's trying to build a platform and a following on YouTube in particular outside of ESPN. And I think that that's a smart thing for him to do. And so he's getting his reps up. He's having conversations. He's getting better. I have to give him his credit. He is getting better. You got to give credit where credit is due. But if Stephen A. Smith is this smart, then why did he vote for him in the first? Why did he vote for Kamala Harris in the first place? Why did he vote for the Democratic Party if everything that he's been saying over these years, and I mean everything that Stephen A. Smith has been saying over the years, has been aligned with what we say here on the Millionaire Morning Show? My question then becomes, then why does he still stay on the Democratic plantation? I cannot and I will not ever take him serious when it comes to having these conversations because his voting record and what he stands for publicly does not align with what he's advocating for and who he's holding accountable on his platforms. I'm not even sure because it's hard for me to believe that Stephen A don't believe what he's saying because it very much aligns with whatever the popular sentiment is. And he's articulating himself well. I'm giving him credit for that. But my question is, then how come it didn't align when it came to voting? Why do you continue to say, oh no, I stand with Democrats? Why do you continue to vote for Kamala Harris when you said that she was incompetent? She was unable to answer questions. She didn't put herself in the right position. She's not the best for the job. Hunter Biden, lies, stealing, finesse, all of this stuff. Why do they continue to have this conversation and then say, but no, y'all need to vote that other way? Because either one or two things is happening. Either you're a closet Republican or you're a paid plant. Either you're a closet Republican or a paid plant. Let me turn on these lights over here.
Now, I agree with you 100%. I went light on that point in my open because I knew you were going to make it. I agree with you 100%. And he didn't have to do it that way. He could have just said what you
Right.
said, which is,
That's exactly what I was.
hey, look, I don't want them. He's my son, and they're going to go after him. And if I can protect him, I'm going to protect him. You know what else Biden should do? And I know people are going to get upset about this, but just think about it before you go crazy on me. Not you,
Sure.
everybody else. If I were he, I would pardon Trump. I
You
would
know
pardon
something?
Trump.
Honestly,
I would say
honestly,
this
as
has gotta
crazy as this
stop.
sounds, Chris,
I
Trump don't
pardon.
need your
That's
pardon,
exactly
dog.
what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. Enough's
don't
enough.
need your
You know
pardon.
what? You're
Enough.
the Democrats. You lost the election. You got your butt whipped. You couldn't prevent him from going back to the White House. More than a dozen cases have been dropped against him. The cases that have been ruled against him, he's going to appeal, and he'll probably get off from having to deal with all of that. It's time to move forward. You want to get at Trump? Sit back and judge what he does. Guess what? You got a midterm election in 2 years. Are you going to be ready if you're the Democratic Party? You should be. He's going to be the presidency for 4 years. You're going to be able to judge every single act that he does. March forward, move forward. Gerald Ford could have
Don't
let
stumble.
Nixon suffer. You know to say he didn't let that happen. Why? Because it was for the good of the country. The whole hanging Chads issue in 2000 between George W. Bush and Al Gore. Gore could have dragged it on. He didn't. It was for the better of the country. And a lot of times these folks speak about this stuff, but they don't do what they say they're going to do and what they implore others to do, which is where the disgust elevates exponentially for Washington, D.C. Because
Listen, nobody cares about your pardons anymore. Nobody cares about a Joe Biden pardon. Symbolically means nothing as far as how it would affect any other future elections. Dog, I don't care if Joe Biden pardoned R. Kelly and all of the women came out saying, this the key to ignition. I done fresh out the kitchen. Mama rolling that body, got every man in here wishing. Tipping on coke and rum. I'm like, so what? I'm drunk. It's that freaking weekend, baby. I'm about to have me some. It's a key. I'm on. Yeah. I don't care if he pardoned R. Kelly, Suge Knight, and Diddy all at the same time. It has no relevance anymore. A Joe Biden pardon has no impact symbolically. Symbolically. You know how we give Trump credit for getting out Kodak Black and Lil Wayne and all of them? It has no impact symbolically anymore whatsoever. At all. I don't care how many black women vote at a 90 something percent clip. I'm starting to question that. I don't believe anything anymore. I don't believe anything anymore from anybody. Bounce, 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 bounce. Now, usually I don't do this, but let's go ahead and give him a little taste of the remix. Usually I don't do this, but sometimes I might want to give y'all a little taste of the remix. It has no impact whatsoever. Once you're exposed on a presidential level as a person that is basically trying to cover up for potentially something that happened that we don't even know about yet, that we can't substantiate, then it means nothing whatsoever. And so people don't take you seriously. They don't have any regard for you anymore. And so we got to keep it moving from that. Joe Biden is done. Everything that they said that Joe Biden was going to have, everything that they said was awesome about him, it's over. Joe Biden is done. He put a can in him, stick a fork in him. Go ahead and get him his little quilt, send him over to Camp David for the rest of his 47, 48 days that he got to stay in office. If Joe Biden decided that he didn't want to appear at the inauguration, I wouldn't even be mad. We don't even want to see him. He a disgrace. They asked him, they said, Joe Biden, where you at? He over in Angola. Did y'all know that Joe Biden was over in Angola? Bounce, 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 bounce. What is he doing in Angola? Angolans don't want you. He over in Angola, probably pushing some LGBTQ initiative over there. Where? Y'all don't believe me? Okay, hold on. Let me see. Joe Biden, Angola. He over in Africa. Joe is in Africa. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Over there kicking it with Africa and declining to answer any questions about his pardon. Yep. Kicking it with Umar Johnson. And he took his son with him. Yes, he did. Joe Biden took his son with him over to Angola.